Stay connected. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.
Go ahead and get started. So I greatly appreciate everybody being here today to discuss the next steps in I believe a very exciting time for Guthrie Cortland Medical Center, and most importantly for the community as we move forward with some really important projects that I think are going to truly enhance the overall experience for our patients and community that access our facility. And so, thanks, I apologize, we moved it inside for the utmost of caution in case there was hail and high winds. So hopefully you can hear me okay. If you can't, please just holler and tell Jen, speak up. But for those that, I think most everybody knows me, but for those that don't, I'm Jen Yardam. I'm the president of Guthrie Cortland Medical Center. And so we have had previous meetings in regards to neighborhood meetings because it's so important that we stay connected and really make sure that we're meeting the needs of not just all of our community, but most importantly, our neighbors. And so we are committed to doing that, obviously, so we want your feedback, and we're here to answer any questions that you may have as we go along. So in this upcoming year, Guthrie originally, when we came in, when Guthrie became affiliated with Cortland Regional Medical Center at the time, truly wants to invest within the community, and this is that next step. And in our new fiscal year, which we run in July, our fiscal year starts in July, we plan to invest in over $14 million in capital here locally within the community. So this is one portion of that, so we'll be talking in the future of other things that we'll be doing. But today we're here to talk about what we deem our Alvina project. And which started with, and as part of our discussions with the Cancer Center, we gave some previews of renditions of what we were looking to do, and it started with the abandonment of a portion of Alvina from the city to us, which has come to fruition. And so that next step is how can we upgrade our main entrance and parking area to further enhance that experience. And I do firmly believe that it is going to be of huge benefit to all of our neighbors, the hospital, and the community. It not only from an ease of access and overall experience, but aesthetically, it's going to look much nicer. There's be more green space, as you're going to see, and then I don't think anybody's going to disagree or be upset when we eliminate the old dirt lot out there. So I know that that's been one of the things in my almost 3 years here that I can't wait to bring to fruition, to show our commitment to the community. So pending final city approval of our plans, etc., so we still have to go through that process. The overall investment in this project is around $3.5 million of that $14 million that I spoke to. So with that, I'm not the expert and the one that's been working. We've diligently been working with our architect, Bob Sager, and Joe Johnston, our Vice President of Operations. So I'm going to turn it over to them to really outline the plans. But again, we are here to answer questions along the way and really talk through. So I encourage you to speak up and let us know if you have questions. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Joe.
Thank you, Jen. So as Jen mentioned, I'm Joe Johnston, the Vice President of Operations. I've been here at Guthrie Cortland a little over 2.5 years now. For those of you who knew Denise Red, Denise was our CFO for a long time here previously, and she was the executive sponsor for our facilities department and therefore our capital improvements. And so with Denise's retirement, I've absorbed that responsibility, which is a really exciting time to do so, as Jen had mentioned, with the significant investments that we're making in the upcoming year, and then also within our 5-year strategic capital improvement plan. But it takes a team to do that, so I'd like to just take the opportunity to introduce the rest of our team members here. I believe many of you have met Bob Sager previously from Schuffer Architects. He's done a lot of the projects here at the hospital, and Julian is his partner in engineering to help assist on this project. Also like to take the opportunity to introduce Travis Vogel, who's in the back of the room here. Travis was our project manager on the Cancer Center and had done such a phenomenal job. We had brought him on as our new facilities director. So he's intimately involved with all the projects that we have ongoing here, in addition to the parking lot itself. But as Jen had referenced, we have worked with city planning on a number of occasions over the last couple of years. Also the Department of Public Works with respect to adopting Alvena Avenue. And so now that we have that complete, as Jen referenced, we have the opportunity to move into the Alvena lots, which will be a significant improvement, as Jen had mentioned. And then in addition to that, the safety of the environment, it'll be a huge improvement as well. We've had a number of falls there, unfortunately, despite our efforts to try and maintain that space in the condition that it's been in. So a really exciting project for us. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Bob, and he'll provide the group with some details this evening.
Thanks, Joe. Yeah, I'm Bob Seigert with Shopper Architects. I'm not an employee here, I'm with Shopper Architects, but we have been working here since 2012, so 10 years now. I'm here with Julian Clark from Plumley Engineering. He's our civil engineer, working out the civil details. They also worked on the Cancer Center, so if you keep that lot in mind, that's a lot of what we're doing here. A number of things that we're doing. Obviously, we want to get the entire lot paved, which of course it is not. Right now you've got gravel, pretty much that portion is gravel, and then this is paved. It will all be torn up and it'll all be paved. But before we do that, we work on stormwater. So, and Julian will go over in a few minutes how we've done that. Basically, everything's pitched away from the neighbors, pitched towards catch basins, and nine bioretention areas. Very similar to what we did over at the Cancer Center. The idea is to reduce the amount of stormwater that is flowing onto the street and then right into the city catch basins. So Julian can explain that, but I think it's going to be a big improvement in terms of stormwater, because Alvena has been a little bit of a problem from a stormwater standpoint. We are also providing a buffer zone all the way around the property line with the neighbors. So this is 10 foot wide, and it's got landscaping in there, a 6 foot high vinyl fence, and we've done a little section through this to kind of explain how that's going to happen. We have, particularly in this end, we've got a little bit of a grade change where the lot is higher than the neighbors, and so anything probably a foot or more, we will put in a little segmental masonry retaining wall, which is hardly any of it's going to be exposed. And again, I would say if it's less than a foot difference, we would do that with grading, but we certainly would want to work with each homeowner to do what you want to do there. We do want to keep it consistent in terms of the fence, and I've got, I'll pass this around, I've got some details in terms of planting, fencing, and site lighting for you to look at. No final decisions have been made, but for instance, the site lighting is the same site lighting that we're using at the Cancer Center. It's dark sky compliant, 20-foot poles, I believe we did in there, and it's designed so that they're high cutoff fixtures, so the light does not spill onto adjacent properties and onto the streets. And the same thing with the plantings. The plantings are very similar. The fence is something that's new. We didn't have a fence over there, but I've got some nice photographs in here of the fences that we're looking at. They're very nice. They're all wood grain. They look nice and they stay nice, and they don't require restaining and maintenance other than cleaning up once in a while. The other portion of this we talked about is that Alvena, from this point forward onto Homer Ave, has been turned over to the hospital. So when the work starts, which right now we're looking at this as being two phases. One phase being this fall, and the second phase being next summer. The first phase would be to get rid of the gravel lot and turn that into an asphalt lot. So it would be this portion here. When we start on that, the intent is to block off Elvina Avenue so that we can stop traffic, through traffic in through here. We're really going to try to minimize the amount of traffic that comes through here during construction. So that needs to start first thing. Let's see. Julian, you want to talk a little bit about the stormwater system?
Sure. As Bob mentioned, basically we're going to try to grade all the parking lot to on-site catch basins that are going to connect to existing storm sewer systems, some out on Evergreen, over here, Homer and Elvina, and then there's an existing storm sewer running down Elvina that will connect to it a couple of times. The parking lot will be created to what we're calling bioretention basins, and they're just grass areas or flower areas that will collect the runoff, allow it to infiltrate or filter through this soil, and then get collected into under drains that drain to the catch basin. It'll also allow some of it to just infiltrate into the ground, thus reducing the overall volume going into the storm sewer system. These are all DEC approved treatment methods, right out of the stormwater manual. And the storm sewer will be sized so that the water goes out for your typical 5-year storm event. Bigger storms will go over land and go out onto the road like they do now. Again, we're going to grade everything to basically the center of the site, trying to minimize any overland flow off-site. Currently, what you have here are some dry wells. They're just catch basins with holes in them, without any pipes. We believe the water just goes in there and infiltrates in the ground. Over time, those areas could be clogged up and plugged, and then you'll see the water coming out of catch basins and not infiltrating.
Especially because it's gravel.
Yep. So with our connections to the storm sewer system, we're hoping to avoid that and always have a means for the stormwater to drain out off the parking lot.
I'll start these over here. That's just a little bit of information on fencing and landscaping and the site lighting. And again, what we're thinking about primarily for the screening here is Arborvitaes. I think we'll use a couple different, there's a couple of different types of Arborvitaes that we use there, probably staggered, so that we can provide good screening. Those normally will get to be, they'll probably come in at 4 to 5 feet tall to start with, grow to, I think between 10 and 15 feet, 12 to 15 feet is where they top out typically. They're not the huge Arborvitaes. I think we used the emerald. What was it? Emerald green.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's like a mixture of two that we did over here.
Yes. Yeah. So that's the general scheme of things. When we get into the second phase, obviously we'll get to this portion wrapping around to Evergreen and the main entrance. We're not going to do that with the first step. We will try to get these handicap spots in because it's one of the tenets here to try to get more handicap spots closer to both the emergency department entrance down here as well as the main entrance up here. So, questions? Got to be questions.
How'd the plowing go this last winter?
What's that?
How'd the plowing go this last winter? There was discussion last time about all these little pods and have to plow around.
Yeah.
Do you have any feedback on the plowing from the winter and maybe the cancer center lot? Sorry, you can't hear me. Travis, do you have any feedback? The question was how the plowing was in the new lot with all of the additional green areas.
The guys that are doing the plowing aren't that excited about it, but we were able to make it work. And it's the same here. If we have to remove snow and put it somewhere else,
It's not the easiest for snow removal, but we've got to We got to do these bioretention basins, you know, we're really trying to meet the city zoning ordinance that really, you know, directs us to break up parking lots.
You have to have green space.
Yes.
So that's, I mean, and obviously the green space helps us with more absorption of stormwater, so.
So we have a retention area for snow?
Well, the snow is probably going to be in various areas around here. I mean, not the entire thing is a retention basin. But, you know, when they have bigger snow events, they're going to have to truck it off-site.
Yeah.
That's part of what we talked about. You know, there are areas there, and as we work the landscaping in here, we'll work out areas so that, you know, we can pile snow in here and not get the trees or bushes right in the center, push them up to the side. We talked about, you know, this area here, maybe do snow there or not. It's going to depend on the final grade. We just don't want to pile snow up against the neighbors' houses, you know, your yards, and then have, you know, runoff. I mean, so we have to be careful with that.
Yeah. So when you get to the retaining wall,
Yes.
how far off, like where on the property lines is that going to be? I'm just concerned at the maintenance between that retaining wall
Yeah.
and like our fence line, because I know the situation, how it looks right now, and it's
Yeah.
not good.
Well, we're putting the retaining wall at the property line. So in other words, this is on the hospital property, right there. This is your yard right here.
Okay.
I mean, our thought is that this new fence is going to replace whatever fences are around there now, but obviously that's up to you. I mean, if somebody has a fence in here and you want to keep it, that's fine. And I'm not saying that we need this everywhere. We will need it on some properties, but not all. But yeah, we're very careful to place that property line here so it's all on the hospital property.
So I shouldn't need to get over there and weed eat between the fence like I do now?
No.
Like we do.
No.
Yeah. We are too. We are, yeah.
Yeah,
There's like no maintenance on the borders.
Yeah, I mean, right now, we're looking at, you know, setting back the fence from the block, from the retaining wall, from the front of the retaining wall, about 2 feet. That only gives us about a foot in here. I mean, that could be used as a planting area if you want. I mean, yes, it's a hospital property, but it's on your side of the fence. So, I mean, if you want to use that for plantings, that's fine.
Okay.
But what I would say is, I mean, during construction, we're going to have to get on residential property to construct that wall, but we will restore the lawns when we get all done with this. Yes?
So in essence, you're advising the plant lines. So my actual question is, how do you anticipate dealing with a change in traffic pattern caused by this? Like, for example, like I teach at SUNY Portland, and you've just cut off my way of getting to work, other than sort of going halfway around shooting its bond. So how do you anticipate the change in traffic pattern as basically a major inconvenience?
So from a city, I would assume we're going to work collaboratively with the city from a perspective and have either temporary signage, et cetera, press releases to really warn in advance that these traffic pattern changes are coming in play and effective when, so that we can try to communicate in as many venues and in real time as possible to help avoid a lot of confusion. I don't know if
the city has a website. It's called Crown City Rising, and on that website, for all construction in the city. So if you're going downtown, help for you're there, so you know where to avoid and what not to do. You want on a daily basis, and all the construction companies communicate back to the city, and we put it right on the website. If they're ahead of schedule, it's fixed. If they're behind schedule, it's fixed. So we try to do that to make that beneficial for everybody. Crown City Rising.
And I'll just add, you know, we acknowledge that it may create an inconvenience for some of our neighbors who are used to utilizing this as a thoroughfare. And so you won't have that in the future, unfortunately for you, but it does serve a greater purpose to the safety of our campus. for the rest of the community who's visiting us. So from that perspective, it is pretty important that we close the road off.
So the question I have on that, back to the property line that she brought up here is, if they do determine to keep their fence, I'm concerned about it not being maintained between the two and trapping people between them. So hopefully the residents here will communicate with the construction team on whether or not they want to keep the fence or maybe grade the grading off, right?
Right.
Objectionable to making the grading difference, right?
Right, exactly.
Instead of
I mean,
putting the
we're-
retaining wall in, let's say in your case, we put the in and then maybe use that fence would be your privacy now
Right.
to do that, and we can extend your fence line to that, get that.
Right,
We don't want to create a corridor back there
No.
for some riprap, so to speak.
Most of the fencing is close to the property line right now, on one side or the other, but it's pretty close to that. I mean, not all the fences, but a lot of them are not in great shape right now. And so that was our intention, that this be the fence. And then, you know, we'll work out, you know, if there's perpendicular fences to that, you know, that have to be extended or brought back, then, you know, we'll work with you on that. But that, yeah, we did not really want to create any kind of a corridor in there. It needs to be maintained.
And there's properties back there that need addressed, I think, in the back side, some of those properties over there. If somebody's one of those and they need help, assistance to try to work something out temporarily, to work towards the plan so that, because getting to that access will be difficult after that.
Correct.
So I'd rather get those properties fixed up now, so anything the city can do. just
Yeah,
help
we
out.
really want to get all that done from a construction standpoint, get all that done before we put the fence up, you know, so that we're not having to go around to Evergreen, come in on your driveways, you know, go into your backyards, to do it right from here, and, but, you know, when everything is set here, then the fence goes in.
So we do some of that cleanup ahead of time, beneficial to everybody.
Yeah.
Because this is gonna start this fall.
Correct, that's the intention, as long as we get the approval from the city, and, you know, again, the city has already seen the overall plan and agreed with that, and, you know, seen what we proposed for Alvina, so we don't think it's a problem here. This is just kind of the technical part of, these are the plants we're using, these are the lights we're using, this is the fence, this is how the stormwater system works.
We got preliminary approval to move those poles across the front.
Oh, great.
National Grid.
Okay.
What's the expected completion date for the fence?
I don't know yet.
I
don't know yet. Yeah.
Spring, it would be.
Well, I mean, we really do want to get all this done this fall, you know. And the fence, you know, I mean, I'm guessing that the fence is going to be towards the end of the project, at least the fall project rather than the beginning. We want to work that out, and it may be that we've got to do it in phases, you know, if we're getting this portion done and working this way, let's get that fence up and not wait until we're, you know, all the way down here. I mean, we do understand that's an issue. We want to make sure that we can maintain your privacy.
What's the possibility that Loop Street's going to get used again for all the construction vehicles that pretty much tore that street to shreds?
I don't see that because this is going to be blocked off.
Right, but I mean, they're going to have to come in and around that way, aren't they?
No. I mean, once this is blocked off, there isn't much need to have a construction vehicle come up here. You can't get through. I don't see any reason why the construction vehicles are all going to come down Alvina Ave. That's our plan. That's one of the reasons we are trying to discourage, you know, as much traffic as possible on Alvina, because
I'm thinking during the construction phase.
Right, but during construction, the construction vehicles will come down, you know, and probably, you know, come in here and, you know, situate themselves in the gravel lot.
And you'll wet down on dry, dusty days.
Yes. That's you know, we'll be very clear with the contractor that, you know, in the fall it's probably going to be more wet than dry, but there will be dry days, and we will have them water it down to keep the dust out.
It'll get better than what it is.
It will, and you know, our intention is not to make it worse. I mean, yes, there'll be construction there, but we you know, I know it's dusty now, and we want to get rid of that.
You brought up an issue, one of those contractors. would you be able to give nods to local contractors? It doesn't sound to be anything that you're doing or that local businesses couldn't do. We obviously have neighbors, we have fence people, we have all
Yeah.
these things. I mean, last time out here, it seemed like you're bringing people in from Rochester and Syracuse. I mean, we have local vendors that can do it. Can they get a shot at it, or?
Local nurseries, I mean, even down to that.
We'll be putting out an RFP as part of the process. So I can't speak to the specifics, but I would presume that local vendors will have the opportunity to bid on this part, right?
I would agree, it's not rocket science, this
Right.
is,
I mean, usually,
Yeah.
straightforward stuff.
over there, it'd be nice to have them do the paving too.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, depending on the size and scope of a project, it's sometimes difficult to find a local vendor. But
Right.
for continual maintenance, we often try and go with local first. So we renewed our landscaping service last year. We couldn't find a local vendor, so we went to Syracuse, and then this year we came back to the local vendors and contracted with a local contractor. So we do try to have a community first approach when we can.
Other questions?
I do have one question. How many parking spaces will be in this new parking lot?
In the parking lot?
How many parking spaces only need in the parking lot?
268.
268. Okay.
Yeah.
Other questions? If there are none, we'll be hanging around. You feel free if you didn't want to ask, if you want to stop up, look at the renditions, ask specific questions that you may have. We'll hang around here until we're done and nobody has anything further. All right, well, thank you all for participating. We greatly appreciate your partnership.
Stay connected. Make sure you hit the subscribe button.